Bonjour, shalom, hello, and welcome to our 10th episode of the second season of Calling an Audible, a podcast focusing on national, regional, and local sports news stories with our own special twist. My name's Zach Greenberg, and along with my co-host Greg Johnson, we are joined by great friend of the show, Brent Reed, the second.
Yes.
Brent, welcome. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, man. I'm glad to be a part of the show today, fellas. I'm glad y'all decided to bring me apart and show some insight on some sports. Let's get to it.
Well, it's good to have you today.
It's good to be here.
Greg, how are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing pretty good today. How are you?
Good. We all just came from spring convocation, so including our producer who had to set all that up. So we had to deal with that for a little bit. But now we're here recording the podcast. So today we'll be talking about some college basketball, the no longer Alliance of American Football, some NBA, and then along with some local regional sports news, and we'll wrap it up with our wacky sports update. So breaking news out of the Alliance of American Football, they have folded. So what are you guys' thoughts on this brand new league that is no longer?
Honestly, I was not expecting that at all. When I looked on ESPN and saw the breaking news about the AFL folding and losing all the money, it was really surprising, man. I was watching all the games that was going on this season. The stands seemed to be pretty packed. It seemed like everybody was tuning in, watching the games. It was interesting. It wasn't like the NFL, something different, you know. So I thought it was gonna be a sparring league, but hey, I guess not.
You know, and I was looking at that, and I read some reports. It wasn't necessarily about the financial side of the aspect of that, but it was more so they had an accounting issue, and the people that did their books for them, there's some issue going on with that. But the biggest and most saddest part about the AAF folding is Johnny Manziel is no longer a professional football player.
Currently. Right now.
I mean,
he'll find a way to go back and play football.
Somewhere.
Probably some pickup.
He probably
league.
realizes that's all he's good for, so...
You know, and it wasn't necessarily even the AAF folding because they couldn't get the NFL players, the third and fourth stringers. Granted, the NFL didn't even want to send them anyways because they didn't want to even risk injury. But, you know, I guess reading an article on Forbes.com about why the AAF failed and said first and most crucial strategic step is defining the target market, and they kind of sucked at that, from my understanding, because the XFL and leagues similar to that, they set them up and... You know, I think Vince McMahon's going to do a lot of good things with the XFL, so I guess we have that to look forward to.
At least we have another league that's going to come, and we'll see how that goes.
I would almost assume all the AAF players are going to go to that league.
Go ahead.
I just hope it doesn't end up being the same effect. I hope the XFL doesn't end up being just like the AFL.
That's what I was just going to say, but I think Vince McMahon's obviously a very smart man, and I think he'll see what happened with the AAF, and he'll be able to make the necessary adjustments. The first adjustment that I think he should make is not going with Starter as the uniform sponsor, because those jerseys, all of those logos were hideous.
Awful.
Their team names were hideous.
Awful.
I think that was their downfall from the start. Like the first thing I said, I was saying to our other friend Will, who's been a guest on the show before, was that like the first thing I noticed about this league is, it's good football, like with that bone-crushing hit on the quarterback that started the season. It was great to see, but those jerseys are just, and everything about the league is just ugly. From what I saw.
Yeah,
but
for me too as a fan, it looked really outdated. The uniforms and the names and the logos really looked outdated. It reminded me of like an old school Madden generic,
like
created
Madden
team.
03 or something like that. NFL Europe team.
Yeah, it looked
almost
so generic.
Yeah.
It's like some random teenager got his hands on a random create a team generator, and just put all those mustard and green colors together. Basically all the eyesores possible.
But one positive that I guess I can say that we can take away from the AAF, players like Trent Richardson, who had NFL careers prior, he led the league with 11 rushing touchdowns, so he's definitely going to get some NFL looks. Then you have Charles Johnson. You Vikings fans are for sure familiar with him.
Good old Charles. Chucky.
He had a career with the Vikings too beforehand, and he led the league in receiving with 687 receiving yards. So, in 8 games, that's pretty good. So you look for those players that might get an opportunity to play in the NFL for next season, or at least will get looks in camps. So
100%, I agree with that. But moving on, to a little bit of NCAA basketball for a bit. John Calipari, after being courted by UCLA for a little bit, I think he got a 6-year, $48 million contract offer from the Bruins. has now recently agreed to a lifetime contract with Kentucky. He will agree to it, and he'll probably become the first tenured coach ever in the history of basketball.
He's already been there 27 years.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got a great track record, especially going from Memphis to Kentucky, and then what he's done with that program. I mean, Kentucky hasn't been what they used to be. I mean, obviously with the rise of Duke, Gonzaga, Villanova, even for a little bit, Kentucky's kind of fallen on the back end, even with North Carolina as well. But going with that, I think John Calipari definitely deserves that. What do you think?
I think he's well beyond deserving that. He's among some of the all-time great coaches, not only at Kentucky, but of all time. So, I mean, in terms of him getting that contract, I feel like it's well beyond deserved. He's up there with the top, with the Mike Krzyzewskis.
Ever.
So I personally, I think that contract is well deserved, well earned, and I'm sure he'll take it. And like you said, though, Cal Kentucky hasn't been on their top of their A game the last 2 years, 3 seasons. I mean, you look back 5 years before that, top guys one and done every single year. Even now with them losing in the Elite Eight, they're probably still going to have at least one top guy go to the league. So
Kentucky isn't going to have any problems. A down year here and there is really not a big deal. Calipari's record all time is 750 and 211.
Jeez.
In 27 years. He went 193 and 71 with UMass, 252 and 69 with Memphis, and he's gone 305 and 71 with Kentucky for a borderline 800 win-loss percentage. So for me, I think that I don't think that it should have taken Kentucky Calipari being courted by UCLA for Kentucky to offer him this. I think that he should have been offered this prior. A long time ago. So, if I was him, I'd be a little bit like, well, I mean, Kentucky's his home now. He's been there forever. So, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, why are they only offering me this now when I'm being looked at by other teams?
Yeah, what took you so long?
Yeah, exactly? His track record's proven.
Definitely.
So, it was a move by the University of Kentucky because they were about to lose. They were about to lose him.
Exactly.
So,
and I can honestly say that Mike Krzyzewski is probably going to be next with a contract like this.
Yeah.
Roy Williams out of Carolina.
Definitely.
Also,
Tom Izzo, Michigan.
Tom Izzo's my next name. Maybe John Beilein in Michigan. Maybe. But even with that, who do you think's next on that list? Are we going to go to the NFL, Bill Belichick?
For lifetime deals? I don't think you'll ever see a lifetime contract in the professional leagues.
Yeah,
I think you'll only see those in college.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It
could happen. Yeah, Nick Saban could get it.
I was about to say Nick Saban's probably next if we were going
maybe.
outside of college basketball.
Yeah, for sure.
But Calipari is the type of guy that definitely could have made the jump to the NBA at any point now. But
easily.
These coaches don't necessarily want to do that because oftentimes they're paid more at the NCAA level than at the NBA level or NFL level.
With the NBA, man, you get a guy, y'all sign him to a 6-year contract. You're stuck with that guy for mostly at least half that contract. With college, like you said, he gets a player, he gets to mold a player in 6 months, 7, 8 months, and he's gone. Most times. Most guys at Kentucky or those big name schools, Power 5 conference schools, one and done. So he probably enjoys that, being able to have an effect on multiple guys. In and out. So I think he'll stay in college for sure.
Well, staying on the topic of college basketball, we're going to preview the Final Four a little bit. And my Michigan State Spartans have made it to the Final Four, just as I predicted. I predicted them to be national champions on a previous episode and in my bracket. So we'll see what they can do versus Texas Tech. And then on the other side, you have Virginia versus Auburn. So what do you guys think about what you guys obviously know where my head's at for my prediction and what I want to happen, but what about you guys?
Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but those Texas Tech Raiders, I think they got guns up for those old Spartans.
But that's just bias because you're from Texas.
I mean,
there might be a little bit of play in there.
There is some bias, yes. But I truly do think that
they're a very solid team. Yeah. I think this is our year personally, but I'm also biased because I've been a Michigan State fan my whole life. Yeah. But
I mean, don't get me wrong. It'll definitely be a nail biter for sure.
Yeah, it'll be a good game.
Yeah, I'm all in saying it'll be a nail biter. So
Texas Tech's got a mean defense. Best defense of any of the Final Four teams left.
And
they definitely show that against Michigan, too.
Absolutely.
They got some pretty explosive players, too, is what I've been seeing. So,
but, yeah, I can see Michigan State. They got one heck of a team basketball situation going on. They are definitely not, like,
best
Duke.
Point guard in the country.
Yeah, that kid is something special, bro.
Didn't even hear of this guy last year.
Yep.
Just the fact that what Michigan State can do with basically Indiana Hoosiers mentality, just team basketball, no individuals, nothing like that. I mean, obviously they don't follow the pass 5 times before you shoot rule, but, seeing Michigan State and what they've done, they handed Michigan losses, and Michigan's my basketball team.
Oh, green.
Go blue. Go blue. And, it's just seeing that. I do like Michigan State, but I respect the heck out of him because Tom Izzo's one heck of a coach. And Michigan State, they kind of started off the year slow, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. But then they just, next thing I know, they're already in the top 5 because they're just taking down
Right, and
teams.
they beat Michigan 3 times.
I think they beat Duke also.
No, they lost to Duke.
Did they lose to Duke?
It was a close game, but they lost to Duke.
They beat North Carolina.
Yeah, they beat North Carolina.
Handedly, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Auburn's really, they've come in hot. I did not think they were going to be
they're definitely a hot team.
Even with the player that sustained ACL tear, one of their top guys.
I think that's the reason why they're not going to be able to beat Virginia right there.
But they've gotten this far without him. He tore his ACL, I think, 2 games ago.
No, he tore his ACL in the Sweet 16.
Sweet 16, and they won that Elite 8 game without him.
They did win the Elite 8 game.
Against North Carolina, right?
No, against Kentucky.
Oh, Kentucky, yeah.
I mean, granted, Kentucky they are a little off this year, but still a number 2 seed, and Auburn took them down by 77-71. It's probably a little bit more telling than what the game actually was, but still, I think it's going to be Michigan State and Auburn. I don't think Virginia's going to do it.
And who wins?
Michigan State. They're just too complete of a team.
Who do you have?
I'm going Texas Tech beats Michigan State, and I'm going Texas Tech against Auburn. And then
you think Auburn beats Virginia? I agree. I think Virginia's going to choke.
Yeah, I think Auburn beats Virginia because they're on a high streak, man. Yeah. They've been playing some team basketball, and they're ball. And so Texas
really
Tech
hot.
Texas Tech and Auburn in the national championship game, and I'm gonna go Auburn, man. I think Auburn.
They're really hot.
I think they're gonna be a Cinderella story. I think they're gonna be.
Care to shoot a score?
It's a good pick.
A score? I'm gonna go 81-75 OT.
OT even. Ooh, that's bold.
See, the thing for me is with this Final Four, you have 2 teams in Auburn and Texas Tech who have never made the Final Four.
True.
And then you have Virginia, who hasn't made the Final Four in over 30 years.
I think.
Something like that. Yeah. And they haven't made it in forever. Then you have Michigan State with Tom Izzo, who's made multiple Final Fours,
but
in his
never
career.
Consistently.
It's been on and off pretty consistently.
He's had a solid
runs.
Group, but he's had hit or miss seasons.
But he's been there for over 20 years, and he's made quite a few Final Fours. He even won a national championship in 2000. So I think that Final Four experience is what's going to carry them to the championship for me. Yeah.
Hey, I believe that somewhat.
And also having the tournament I guess they've never really played in U.S. Bank Stadium, but it is regionally Michigan State's on home advantage.
Yeah.
Because easier access for fans to get to the game, stuff like that.
Yeah, so, a little bit quicker of a fly than Texas Tech, drive. Virginia, and Auburn, whatever's running if you got some crazy fans out there. You never know. But we're going to move on to the NBA quickly for a little bit. And there's Colin Cowherd and some other reporters have been noted to say that Durant to the Knicks is a done deal, and Kyrie is also expected to sign. Any thoughts to go around the table on this one?
In my opinion, if Golden State wins the ship again, KD's not going anywhere. That's what I think.
I don't think there's a chance they lose in the championship this year. So
yeah,
I don't see KD.
Everything's Golden State to lose. But I was reading a report or an article online, I guess, that's saying Kevin Durant never truly felt one with the fans. He's never completely welcome because it's still
he's not the face of that franchise.
No, it's still Steph Curry.
It's Steph Curry and Draymond is even the face of that franchise before Kevin Durant.
Yep, and
in my opinion,
even with the addition of Boogie over the summer, and he's finally healthy, but it's just Golden State's a different team this year. They're not like they used to. They're not like they were in the past. They got 5 complete all-star players. Mm-hmm. Their entire starting lineup is MVP caliber. Every single one of them.
Facts.
And
I think they, aside from DeMarcus Cousins, they all made the All-Star game this year.
pretty sure,
And
yeah.
if DeMarcus Cousins was healthy,
He would have been
there too.
the entire
So-
West, or that's
So,
right, they did the lottery pick
I think there's
this
a
year.
very good. I just don't see it being possible for any team
To beat them 4
to
out of
beat
7.
to beat them 4 out of 7, to beat them
that's
4
hard.
times in a 2-week span. That's it's impossible.
Especially in home court on the Oracle.
Yeah.
It's like that's like the loudest NBA facility there is.
They're becoming a powerful franchise right now.
It's just, can they keep it together and keep it intact? That's the real question. But
Yeah, now at this point, it's going to come down to good management
Yep.
and
which
coaching
they do
decisions. They do have.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they put it together so far. but,
Exactly.
I mean, even if they lose KD, they're still going to be a
they're
playoff
still
team,
afraid.
arguably a top 3 team in the league. So
And then losing KD it will open up some cap space. So
because
they can go get somebody.
we forget that they won, I think, 2 rings before
Before
KD
him.
even got there.
Yep.
So
Yep. And now they don't even have to go through LeBron anymore. They don't have to meet LeBron in the finals.
At all.
No.
They don't even have to meet him in the playoffs whatsoever.
LeBron even in the playoffs at
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't see another complete team standing a chance against them, especially in 7.
well, if the Knicks can get Kyrie and KD and then get Zion Williamson,
True.
that's a complete team right there.
Yes.
That's
And
scary.
And they also have
It's just-
Dennis Smith Jr. still over there. So
yeah, and Wesley Matthews. That's a scary team.
That's 4 players right there, and really that's all you need. It's
Yeah,
just
two
yeah,
extremely
they're
explosive
a top 3
players.
team in the East instantly with those 3 guys.
it's
added
just
to
how
the
is
team.
their bench going to be?
Yeah.
Because
Probably not very good.
And
Yeah.
but how does Zion Williamson mesh with a player like Kevin Durant?
that maybe he'll take him
It's to
under
be
his wing and teach
determined.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends if KD's about himself or he's about coaching the young.
Yeah.
That's a
So-
big question. But going on to a little bit of state news, the Minnesota Twins are off to a promising 4-1 start. I can't remember the last time the Twins actually had a decent start like this, especially with new management. And you heard it here first, AL Central champs.
Oh my, you're forcing it. It's too early. There's a 162 game season.
I know. I just like to be optimistic. I mean,
That's fair.
the
I mean,
current
that was an impressive sweep against the Royals you guys had.
Yeah, it was, and they came back. I watched the tail end of the game yesterday afternoon, and they were down 4-6. Kepler had a nice clutch 2 RBI single to plate 2, and then they won it in the top of the 9th, and they held them in the bottom of the 9th. It was spectacular. I
Well-
haven't seen the Twins do that in a long time.
Well, I'm kind of rooting for you guys. I used to be a big Twins fan. We talked about that before, but
Yep.
I picked Jonathan. How do you say it? Scoop or Scoop?
Jonathan Schoop.
Shoop, however you say his name. I picked him in my fantasy league, so he's been doing good so far, and hopefully he'll continue in that direction.
I think he
On the
will.
other hand, Donald Zach Greinke has disappointed me so far this season, and we need a better performance out of you, Donald. Thank you.
Just to make another note, the Red Sox are currently 2-5. The Mariners, surprisingly, after their complete fire sale this past year, are 7-1. Now that is another hot start I did not see coming.
I mean, the thing is, in baseball, it's such a long season.
Yeah,
So much
I
stuff
mean,
can
it's
happen.
a-
The first 10
long
games
season.
don't mean much, but it's just interesting to see that the Mariners of all teams right now are 7-1. Even the Angels, and they're 1-5, and Mike Trout just signed basically his career contract. Well, in fact, it is his career contract. But the Astros 2-5, the Athletics 5-4, even after they lost a bunch of big pieces, and the Yankees, who are currently being betrothed by injuries, are 2-4. It's crazy to see how the start of a season can be so tough, but games matter most in July, August, and early September. That's where you make your season, because when the Twins last made the playoffs, I think not last year, but 2 years ago, they basically won out, and they started just winning a whole bunch of games in August and September, and that's what put them in the playoffs. Because they weren't out of it, they're in the hunt, and then they ended up getting that wild card. Granted, they lost to the Yankees, which hate the Yankees with a passion. But that's just how it is. And even the Rangers are looking a little bit good. Brent?
You know it, hey man. Go Rangers, man. I'm not too big on the whole baseball sport, hey, but I do watch a little Rangers baseball, and they beat the they beat the Twins every now and then. So
Every now and then, but
I used to like the Rangers when they had Ron Washington as their manager.
Oh,
I thought he
100%.
was great.
yeah, that's when I used to keep up with them when they had Warren Washington.
When they made all those championships in a row and
Yep.
lost them all, I was rooting for them
Kansas
every time.
City, San Francisco, St. Louis, they got there, they just couldn't do it.
Couldn't get it done.
Even the Blue Jays, 3-4 Greenberg.
Yeah.
3-4.
It's okay. We'll see. I know the Blue Jays aren't the team to beat in the AL anymore. They were a couple years ago, but not anymore.
Within 3 years, they're going to be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got
Vlad
a lot
Guerrero
of young.
Jr. coming up.
Yep, they got a lot.
He probably
of young
won't play
bucks.
for a little bit, maybe a month or so.
They might do the Chris Bryant route with him and throw him down the minors for an extra year of arbitration.
But if he's anything like his dad, we have a good future in Toronto.
Yeah, no more to be said. No more to be said about that. That is 100% true. But sadly, Minnesota Wild fans, no playoffs this year.
Oh. Wah.
You're lucky there is a table separating us right now, and Brent Reed is a huge human being that will probably stop our fight.
Hey, give him some credit. He's lost some weight. We've been on this diet plan.
Been on this diet
and this workout plan.
Getting these gains, man.
Yeah, gains and losses.
Yeah, trying to graduate looking right. So
you know it, man.
You're gonna be the freshest guys walking the cap and gown.
You know it.
You know, I just want to say that even though the Wild are out of the playoffs, circling back to the Wild here, that they did beat the Jets in the season series. I think they swept them too.
Oh yeah!
And
Congratulations!
Our producer James is just going wild. I know y'all can't see him.
On your middle of the pack finish. Not even going to get a good lottery pick.
I know. I'm really mad about that. We're going to have probably a 15-16 pick.
Meanwhile, we're headed to the Cup.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
But we have
Good
to
luck
worry
going
about
through Calgary.
We can easily go through Calgary. They don't have any playoff experience. But what I'm worried about is the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who beat us last year
handedly.
And then I'm also worried about Tampa Bay, obviously, who's been the first 60-win team in a while. They have 2 games left, and they have the chance to tie in the 94 Washington Capitals for the most wins in a season with 62. So
and that's crazy.
And 62 wins in hockey is pretty crazy, especially when you factor in those overtime losses that go into the record. They only had 4 overtime losses this year, so that's very impressive for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But
you want to know something interesting I've seen?
What's that?
Looking at the NHL and the stats, there's so many players that got to 100 points this year. Did you notice that?
Yeah. It's becoming a lot more of a goal-scoring league,
which I think is what makes hockey exciting.
Less physical. It depends what your interpretation of exciting is.
Well, a lot of people say baseball sucks because there's never any scoring, and the Dodgers-Astros World Series was probably one of the best World Series in terms of the amount of
crazy amount of home runs.
generated.
People were saying that the rumors that the balls had certain things in them that made them go further or something.
No, I think the official story was they made the laces even smaller, so it's basically throwing. You couldn't get any spin on it, so your breaking balls were just not doing anything. They're just going straight, and if you hang it, you bang it. That's the common term in baseball, especially for pitchers, but. For points currently in the NHL, Nikita Kucherov leads with 125 points, and he's 10 above McDavid in second. Patrick Kane is currently third with 107.
Patrick Kane quietly doing it on the awful Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, he's good for him. I mean,
he's been doing it for a while. So.
Taves isn't even in the top 20.
No,
I take it back. No, that's John Tavares. You read that wrong. So yeah, Taves is
Taves definitely not
23rd with 79 points.
Yeah,
but even with that. Brad Marchand rounds out the 100 club at 5th overall with 100, and Johnny Gaudreau 98 points with a couple of games left.
How many points does Scheifele have?
Mark Scheifele, I don't see him. Yeah, I know he's got a lot, but Blake Wheeler's got 90.
Yeah.
There he is, 81. So it's not bad at all. I think Winnipeg relies a lot more on their top 2 lines than anything. Yeah. But they got some really scroungy
They're pretty
lines.
stacked, and the addition of Kevin Hayes is huge going into the playoffs. So, and the game that I went to a week or so ago, the way that Hayes had played with Line A and those guys they'll be tough to beat in the playoffs.
It's unreal
especially when Winnipeg's going to have home ice advantage for most of the playoffs.
I think if Hayes stays with Winnipeg, that's gonna be tough to keep.
I think he was strictly a rental, but
yeah, but there's
we have so many guys we have to pay going into the future.
Winnipeg's in that crappy situation where they have a bunch of their people on their restricted agency contracts, and now when they're getting closer to unrestricted, payday's coming.
Yeah,
and Winnipeg, if they would have gotten to the Cup a little bit sooner, they might have been able to afford those guys.
I think their window is this year, next year.
Yep.
So.
Moving on to a bit of local news here. Baseball and softball both dropped their games yesterday, and softball split last weekend. Both teams are off to really good starts compared to what we're used to. And, looking at that, I think spring sports will be a good thing to watch this year.
Yeah, and the equestrian team leaves tomorrow morning for their, I believe it's zone championships. And so good luck to them. They'll be leaving tomorrow morning.
Huge shout out to equestrian team.
Huge shout out, man.
But aside from that, that's really it for UMC sports updates.
It's been a little bit quiet.
Basketball's been done, so we're just looking ahead to some baseball games and some softball games coming up. But we're going to move on to our rivalry segment.
Our favorite segment, because I get to yell at Greenberg.
There's been some breaking news about some hostilities that have been by former players that have been brought about to do with the Green Bay Packers and the culture there over the last couple of years. And, I was the first to admit it, and I've admitted on this show that they needed a culture change. And I think that they got that with firing McCarthy. But obviously McCarthy wasn't very happy by that. So why don't you go over that article that you found?
So it kind of all stemmed to how much McCarthy and Rodgers despised each other. It went as far back as the 2005 NFL draft, where at that time Mike McCarthy was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers.
And they didn't pick him.
And they had the first overall pick, and they picked Alex Smith, where Mike McCarthy even is on record stating Smith was a better quarterback than Rodgers.
Yeah.
So Rodgers has had that chip on his shoulder for all those years.
Yeah.
And he's even quoted telling his frustrations to former players who remained anonymous, which I don't blame him. I'd remain anonymous for this too. But Rodgers has been caught barking stupid effing called in various games throughout the seasons. Even NFC Championship games in 2015, where is quoted McCarthy coached with the ferocity of a sloth.
Which was absolutely true in that NFC Championship
I mean, calling
game.
for field goals from the 1 yard line twice.
Yep.
And then just running.
Inexcusable play calling.
I mean, it really, really tipped off when basically we found out Rodgers is one person that definitely holds a grudge. I mean, there's been a bunch of articles reporting how he's distanced himself from his family. Even.
Completely. No contact.
Like, how do you just... The fact he alienated his entire family.
All right. The thing I want to say about Aaron... Obviously, as a huge Green Bay Packers fan, I've always been a fan of Aaron Rodgers. I've never liked him as much as Brett Favre because Brett Favre's my guy. If you ask me Favre or Rodgers, I say Favre 10 out of 10 times.
Even as a Vikings quarterback, Favre was my guy.
When he was a Vikings quarterback, I still take Brett Favre over Aaron Rodgers any day of the week. And that has nothing to do with Rodgers' skill. But Rodgers' personality, he's very arrogant, very entitled, and that has come about more and more. There was a segment on Cowherd that they were talking about when Rodgers first came into the Packers organization. He came in. The first day he met Brett Favre, he goes up to Brett Favre and says, "What's up, old man?" And that can be seen as maybe like kind of a jokingly, kind of being funny, whatever. But when you're a rookie going into the locker room for the first time, meeting arguably one of the best quarterbacks ever in Brett Favre, who's at that time 35 years old, you need to show some respect.
Yeah.
So I don't think that really rings it. I don't think Aaron Rodgers really thinks about that. So.
No, that was a terrible first impression.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And
I mean, me being a Cowboys fan, a diehard Cowboys fan, I got a love-hate relationship with Aaron Rodgers. So
you tired of losing to him?
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic quarterback. He's pretty good. He's pretty good, but kind of tip off what Zach said. His personality, man, it's not that great. He doesn't, according to what I see and what I think, he doesn't have the greatest relationship with his teammates, with his coaches at all. And I mean, you can kind of see it around him. The Green Bay franchise is deciding to keep Rodgers, and it seems like all the other pieces around them are trying to get out because of that fact.
Yep.
So
there's a lot of former Packers players weighing in on this. Jermichael Finley, who played for the Packers from 2008 to 2013, was quoted seeing Aaron Rodgers as a self-entitled quarterback and bad leader. The former running back Ryan Grant thinks it's idiotic for anyone to complain about such a transcendent talent. Granted, Aaron Rodgers is one heck of a quarterback. The things he does on that baseball,
absolutely.
The things he does on that football field is unreal.
Insane.
Yeah, and I've seen it break my heart many times.
So many times.
Greg Jennings, he was a receiver for the Packers from 06 to 12. He said Rodgers is an ultra-sensitive source of toxicity. Others lambast McCarthy for wasting a gift from the football gods, which,
he did.
Again,
he absolutely did.
they said that the Packers could have been a dynasty like the Patriots.
They should have been.
They missed out on several rings throughout that tenure.
So many NFC championships completely blown.
Yep.
And the thing is, I agree with the Packers' decision in getting rid of McCarthy over Rodgers. Obviously, you cannot get rid of Aaron Rodgers at this point. You've had him for this long. He's your guy, and he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Currently 35. He's getting older, but
he is getting older, but he's still producing, and he produced all season long. He threw for 4,500 yards
with that team.
With that team,
with
that O-line, with that defense. So.
Kirk Cousins.
So it was a good decision for the Packers to get rid of McCarthy, I think. But, I'm hoping, praying that Aaron Rodgers can develop a good relationship with Matt LaFleur. And then we can go back to the greatness that we had before.
And to continue on the article, this is all on Bleacher Report. And one ex-Packer scout puts it on both. He says, Rodgers is an arrogant quarterback, quick to blame everyone but himself. One who's not as smart as he thinks he is, yet kindly points out that McCarthy basically quit on his team. And to continue and just to basically finish this point up is nobody's sure where Rodgers and the Packers will go from here and how long this next marriage will last with new head coach Matt LaFleur. I think Aaron Rodgers needs a discount double check in reality, just to play with his State Farm commercials. But even with that, I think Rodgers needs to figure out that he's not the greatest human being on the face of the earth. He's a dang good quarterback. He just needs to be humble. And I think that's where he falls short is he's not a humble person. And
extremely arrogant, man. And don't get me wrong, it's okay to have some
talk the talk and walk the walk.
Yeah, that's okay, but then again, you got to know your boundaries, man. You got to know when to put them back, when to hold back, and when to just be a quarterback.
When to shut up.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think we've said about as much as we could about that, and it'll be interesting to see how the Packers go from here.
I think that's what sets him apart from the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Is his personality, his arrogance, the way he
it caused a lot of problems and made them not win as many Super Bowls as they should have. So
right, and you look at Pittsburgh as a current example now.
Yep, he is. Ben Roethlisberger is single-handedly ruining their franchise. They lost one of the top receivers in the league.
And running backs
in the league. It's not solely on Ben Roethlisberger, but he definitely is playing a large part in that.
I mean, you look at another quarterback in Eli Manning. OBJ definitely wanted to leave because he had Eli Manning there, and that's probably not to do with Manning's personality.
I think it's just his
level of play at this point.
Manning's on the tail end of his career. It's about time to hang him up.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the Giants' plan at least in trying to.
I think they don't want to. I think he wants to retire a Giant just as much as the Giants want him to retire.
Right, so. and they need to have a plan in place. So I think that they'll pick a quarterback this year.
Definitely, I do.
And then have him sit for at least this year, maybe next year if Eli decides to play again. But the Giants could be all right. They upgraded a little bit on defense, and they did lose OBJ, but they still have Saquon Barkley
and Sterling Shepard
and Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate now. So
they added Golden.
Golden Tate is not Odell Beckham Jr. by any means.
No, for sure.
He's an older guy, but he's still quality.
He can still play football.
And that's some good talent for them to build around for sure, because their O-line is coming up, man. The defense isn't where it used to be. It's not the Jason Pierre-Paul defense from back then, but Jason Tuck and all them. But it's coming back. But
I'll tell you one guy that's a fan of Aaron Rodgers, and that's kicker Mason Crosby, and you can see that by the relationship on the sidelines.
Those two are brothers.
We're going to move on to our wacky sports wrap-up. Not much to say of the wacky world of sports, but Shaquille O'Neal has a Hall of Fame basketball player, future. Is he in the Hall of Fame yet?
If he isn't, he will be.
He will be.
Oh, yeah.
But he relinquished his Superman title to Giannis Antetokounmpo. So,
the Greek freak for
that's
those of us I can't say it.
That's a big Shaq himself has been known to be pretty self-absorbed. So
he's a very word-savvy person, always calling himself the Big Aristotle.
Yeah.
Just to name
the Big Diesel and all that.
Just to name a few of his nicknames he's given to himself, and game recognized game. And,
True.
I think Shaq basically saying that Giannis is the next Superman in
passing
basketball.
The torch.
But remember all those years ago, Dwight Howard
Yeah.
He thought he was Superman too.
Yeah, that didn't end so
Back when
well.
he averaged 20 games.
Yeah, crazy. He had a crazy couple of years.
He was really good when the league was still
center oriented, not shooters.
Now the league
it's just shooters, and even your centers need to shoot.
Yeah, and Dwight Howard can't shoot.
Yeah, if you can't shoot the three, it's going to be hard to play in the NBA now.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to, like, we talked about how hockey's changed. We can talk about how football's changed, like just how sports just slowly have evolved over time. Like in football, you have. It went from basically an all-running league. Now it's an all-passing league with little contact.
Yep. Baseball is now you have to throw 100 and you have to hit the long ball.
Yeah, long ball is huge in baseball now. In hockey, it's a lot less physical, a lot more goal scoring, and in basketball, it's the same way. And three-pointers galore.
I think next episode we can talk about. There's been some chatter about adding a 4-point line to the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think it's
a good idea.
We can save that for our next show. But just going with that, just sports are changing, and I think we can make that a big topic on our next show.
For sure.
So, with that, thanks for listening to Calling an Audible. As always, listen in with us on Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube. Currently, iTunes is still being a pain in the butt, so as I am still trying to figure out that situation, we will soon hopefully be on there. But we appreciate you listening. Feel free to hit us up on our Twitter page at CallAudiblePod. We aren't afraid to take your opinions to heart, and we may argue and banter with you on the Twitterverse because, that's just in our nature. Zach and I and Brent, you like to get into a little bit of arguments too.
Yeah, I like a little sport argument.
A little spark in our lives.
Nothing wrong with that.
And, with that, again, thanks for listening, and we will be back in action next week.
Calling an Audible is made possible through the assistance of the University of Minnesota Crookston Media Services Department and executive producer James Pagachnik. The views expressed on Calling an Audible are not necessarily the views of the University of Minnesota Crookston or its affiliates.